Good morning, class. In our continuing series for ACA exam prep, this one we're going to talk about the ImageTrace tool. And this is part one. This is going to be a two-parter. Part one, we're going to talk about what ImageTrace is and why you might want to use it. In part two, we'll go over some more advanced things as far as editing editing the ImageTrace itself. And this, as far as exam prep, covers points 4.5 and 4.5D. Use basic reconstructing and editing techniques to manipulate digital graphics and media, and use ImageTrace to create vectors from bitmap graphics. Not exactly sure why they specifically say bitmap, because we're actually going to use JPEGs. It works on PSD files. It works on PNG files. Now, with the exception of PSD, you're going to see JPEG and PNG files used all over the web. And since what you're going to be doing in your assignment is to grab one of these from the internet, or grab a portrait from the internet, it's important to understand that it works on far more than just bitmap. So let's get started. What is... Now here we've got completed. This happens to be Thomas Sowell, one of my all-time heroes, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this back into the original JPEG that it was. ImageTrace is a method of taking any graphic, for that matter, but in this case we're going to use images from the web and converting it to vector art. Why would we do that? Well, it's scalable. That means I can take it as big as I want it, and it's going to maintain the exact same look that it had when it was small. For illustration purposes, I've already converted this in Photoshop. And what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in, and as we know that this is a raster-based technique here in Photoshop, it's not vector, which means it's a bunch of pixels. So if we zoom way in, you can see the individual pixels. So if you were to try to blow this up and say put it on a billboard outside or something, what you'd have is that. You'd have a big mess. So if you need some justification for using it for this type of purpose, here we are. So anyway, when we go back, or when we look at ImageTrace, I can just hit the ImageTrace button. And the default is this. There are times where it's suitable, but what I really want you to do is explore the possibilities. And you do that by hitting the little down arrow here, and you've got a ton of different things. High fidelity photo, low fidelity photo, 3 colors, 16 colors, 6 colors, 16 colors, shades of gray, and so on and so forth. Your assignment is going to be to take the same photo and try 5 different treatments on it, and then tell me which one you think worked best and why. And you don't have to pick a portrait. It could be a landscape. I would pick something that's very colorful, lots of different colors, and I think you'll be more pleased with the results, and it will show the differences more clearly. Okay, so let's go through and try some of these. So if I try 3 colors, what does that give us? Well, it gives us that, which, in this case, doesn't really look too good. So let's up it to 16 colors and see where we're at. Not bad. I can see in certain circumstances this would look pretty good and would be very suitable, particularly if you want something to look very rough. But let's go back. Let's try shades of gray. Notice it had to think a little bit longer. And that's because if you notice, if you look at the gradation, there's a lot of shades of gray in here. But we're going for a color look, or at least that's what I want in this case. So let's go back, try line art. What does that give us? Nothing. Not even recognizable. However, something like a landscape might get an entirely different result. So you've got to give it a try. So let's go to low fidelity photo. And that's not too bad. It's not too bad. Just for giggles, I'd like a little more definition in the collar and stuff and down here, and this is a little harsh. So let's go back and look at high fidelity photo. Notice that takes a while. Now there we've got something. We have a very smooth gradation. It's not distracting. It doesn't distract the eye. We see a lot of detail in his salt and pepper hair. And I like this. It's picked up nicely on the pattern in the coat, the collar, even his tie. So all in all, in this case, high fidelity photo is the way to go. Now, let's take a look at what happens when we zoom in now. We don't lose resolution because there is no resolution in vector art. So I think what we've proven here is that there are times where you're going to want to do this type of thing in Photoshop, and there are times where you're going to want to do it in Illustrator. So in part 2, we'll go on to some more advanced techniques.